Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here at Earth and Sky, and all of you joining us live around the world. We really appreciate you. We love it when you hit the like button down below and the like button on our Facebook page. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button. If you want to hear all of our videos, feel free to hit the bell button. Or if you just want to get occasional notifications, you should still hit that bell button because you can choose how frequently you want to get our videos. We put a video out at least once a week. Sometimes we do little extra ones here and there in between. Tea with DNA is going to be starting up again soon. And this week we are talking about Ostara, which is very, very similar to Easter. It's where Easter got its roots. And so this is airing today, but next Sunday, the 25th, we will have a very special guest speaker here talking to you. Deanna Zayats is going to be presenting about Mercury in retrograde. Sometimes you may have heard about when planets go into retrograde, when they reverse their direction. For some people that can seem like a scary thing, but she's going to talk about how you don't have to lose your mind. She's going to talk about how you can use it in your favor with things, because the planets they don't actually go in reverse, they just look like they go in reverse, and it's a good time for reflection. It's a time to look within sometimes. So sometimes Mercury in retrograde is quite often famous for the bouts of miscommunication and the bouts of electronics going haywire, but she's going to give us a much deeper perspective and how you can learn to not fear this retrograde. We also have, I think Jupiter is retrograde right now too. Jupiter should be pulling out pretty quickly, but she will be here just in time to talk to you about the next few weeks of Mercury's retrograde. Today, though, I wanted to talk to you about Easter, which is also Ostara, which is also the spring equinox. So I love this time of year because it's time to turn the wheel and try to practice not dropping the wheel on camera. So we had Yule, which was the last weather holiday, which was December 21st. That's the darkest night of the year. Then we just recently had Imbolc, which was the lambing season, February 1st. And right now we are coming up to that beautiful spring equinox. Everybody, I think, is ready for spring to get here. And whoops, wasn't the wheel moved. Thank you. This is what we get when we do this live. All right. So, as you can see on the wheel, as you can see on the wheel, we have a little sign that says fairies are welcome. This is that magical time of year where we often see fairies coming around. If you feel like you have things that are going missing in your home, typically they only mess with shiny things like keys or jewelry or anything that sparkles. And so if those are going missing, just give a little offering out to your garden where you're starting to plant things. Put something shiny out for them. That will deter them. They'll be happy staying occupied, whether it's a quarter or a bell or a piece of jewelry, whatever you have, a little shiny bauble, those gazing balls that go in the garden. Fairies love that, and then they'll stay out of your pockets and in your home, out of your home, and play in the garden. And so there's a long-standing tradition about fairies too. In Iceland, I believe, is where they really have a lot of belief in fairies. In the West, it seems some people believe, some people aren't sure. More children believe in fairies, but in Iceland, they will actually close roads and bridges when they believe that the fairies are out and about and the other little beings are out and about. They are very careful with road construction and things like that because they're very sensitive to the fairies. So we could go on about that, but that is not what we're here to talk about today. We're talking about Ostara, which is a time of balance in the year. And I wanted to ask each of you, do you know how the date for Easter is set? That's one of those interesting holidays where it varies. It can be anywhere from late March to mid-February. Sometimes it's even a little bit late, or mid-April, late March to mid-April, and so it varies a lot. A lot of people don't know how Easter is decided upon. And do you also know what eggs, rabbits, flowers, and seeds have to do with Easter? Those are a lot of times just icons that we just expect. We know that we get together, we color eggs, we hide them in the yard, the kids play with them. Now sometimes we use those plastic eggs and fill them with quarters or candy or things like that. And young children will wake up in the morning knowing that the Easter Bunny has come and they expect a great little basket of goodies. Where did those traditions start? Well, we're going to get to all of that in just a minute, but we are also talking about Ostara. So all of these things are going to come together here for you. This time of year, as we turn the wheel, this is the time of the year where it's waxing. The other phase we're going through this time of year, or this year, is about the moon phases. So as we've talked about the wolf moon, the snow moon, the cold moon, the worm moon, the pink moon is coming up. We're talking about in depth this year about each of the different moons, and we're going over at different points through the year, what does the full moon mean? What does the new moon mean? Well, and then the waxing moon, there are 8 different phases of the moon, just like there are 8 different holidays on here. So, and those phases will actually correlate exactly with the holidays. So we are in the waxing phase right now because the waxing phase is where the moon is going from new to full, so it's increasing. Well, we're going from the time where the new moon would be represented, where it's darker in the winter, and we're coming around and we're waxing our way up through the year this year. All of these different things correlate. It's fascinating when you start to put those correlations together. So if you think about the waxing phase of the year, this is where you're planting your seeds. This is where you've kind of gone through a lot of the planning stages already because you wanted to have the things planned out, and now you're putting action into what you're planning. So Ostara is also the time of balance because this is where we have balance of light and dark through the year. We have over here the darkest night of the year. Over here we have the longest day of the year. When we're up here at Ostara, we have balance, the same time of light as we have dark, and you go straight across the wheel and you have that same thing on the other side of the year, balance between light and dark. And this is where we have that spring is just starting to come up. So we're starting to get more light. The moon is starting to wax within our lives. It's starting to bring that light back. When we were down here, we were talking about the holly and the oak king battling because the holly king will rule at Yule and the oak king will rule when we're in the summer because the holly king is all about when we have the darker phase, and the oak king is where we have, actually I think it said that backwards, but the oak king we have with the light. The oak king brings the sun, the holly king brings the darkness. And when we talked about his story this winter, we talked about how when they had battled and they, instead of feeling like the oak king was going to reign victorious this time, we had talked about how they came up, they do this twice a year, and the Oak King and the Holly King will rise together as these great leaders, one wanting the darkness and one wanting the light. And this year, when the Oak King saw the Holly King, he noticed that the Holly King was a lot weaker this year, that he was standing up and he was quite frail and he couldn't quite walk straight. And so the Oak King looked at him and realized we as men and women have fallen out of balance, that we have reached a point in society where we don't have that balance of light and dark. It used to be 100 years ago that there was much more balance. We followed the seasons of the year. We followed the wheel of the year. We noticed as seasons came with planting and harvesting. And this year, though, he had noticed that one thing big was different, in that man was creating light on our own. And so since man was creating light on our own, we had fallen out of that balance of figuring out, following the rhythms of nature, following those rhythms of our own body. And so they decided to make a truce with each other, and they decided that they were going to, instead of battling, they were going to walk in harmony and walk in peace together, with the hope that mankind would learn to find peace and balance within their own lives. And so as we come up, and we're in that midsection between where the Holly King and the Oak King will rise. We actually can see that we need to find that balance within ourselves. So it's not always about having so much to do, and it's not about resting too much. It's actually about finding balance within ourselves and find how we can choose this time of year as things are getting ready to grow and plant, as we're moving from the time of year where we're planning everything out. How can we find balance within ourselves to move forward into this season where we have all of the wonderful light coming up from Mother Nature, and where we have that natural light that's going to be growing the seeds that we've been planting, that this is the time to plant them, and then those seeds are going to come and grow up. So right now we have equal length between night and dark. This is also a good time to focus on balancing the masculine and feminine within yourselves, because whether you're male or female, we both have masculine and feminine qualities within ourselves. We both have action, and we both have times of being receptive. We both have emotion, and we both have times where we do and we move forward. So it's about finding that balance in all of those aspects. Finding the balance between the inner part of yourself and the outer part of yourself. Finding that balance between, in astrological terms, they would say your rising sign, your inner personality, and your sun sign, which is your outer personality. So how can you find balance? How can you make peace with who you feel like you are on the inside and who you're showing everybody you are on the outside? This is where that time of year where the season is right in line with you, so that you can find that balance, so that you can move forward and be walking in truth with yourself. So just one of the fun things that you can do, and this is starting to get back into the eggs. I told you we were going to figure out how they determine the date for Easter, and where eggs come from with this holiday. Where do the rabbits come from, and the baskets, and all of those things. So one of the fun things that I've heard you can do, we're going to test this out this year, but I've heard that at the vernal equinox, or the spring equinox, right around the time that the day and the night are exactly equal, which in Eastern time would be 12:15 in the afternoon in the northern hemisphere, that you can go outside, and if you have an egg, you can actually balance it on its end and have it stand straight up where normally it would wobble. So that's one of the things that I've heard is an interesting exercise to try. From what I've heard, it will only do that at that time of the day. So it'd be interesting to try it both ways. And that represents that balance within our lives. That can be an exercise you do just to try for that balance within yourself, just to see as you're practicing and you're working on balancing it, see how you can reflect on yourself with bringing balance out within yourself, setting it on the ground and just seeing it balance. Once you get it to balance, then see how you can, where you need to bring that balance out within yourself, and then work on that. Make a pact with yourself to walk in that balance. And this is also the time where the earth is so abundant with fertility. So that's a lot of where we get the symbol of the eggs from. And that's where we get the symbol of the rabbits from. Those are two of the main symbols of fertility. The eggs is, it makes a lot of sense, and rabbits also make a lot of sense. Those were two of the symbols that would represent the goddess Esther. Well, or Istra is how you really pronounce it. So Istra, some people will pronounce it Ustra, depending on which area you're from. And if you she was the goddess of fertility. She's the goddess of spring. It's a Germanic word that represents east, because this time of year is when she would reign. And so east is the direction that the sun rises. And so they're honoring the fact of that nature where the sun is rising in the east, and you can see that feminine aspect of Istra rising, and they would just honor her, which is the same as honoring nature. It's the same as just honoring, sometimes people will get concerned about words if you reference goddesses, or sometimes people get hung up on if you reference God. It depends on whatever experiences we've had in life, but they all are the same thing. So it's honoring that beautiful aspect of the feminine rising, that balance rising within. And so the Christian holiday, they named it Easter after the goddess Ostara, because they were working with a pagan community as they were trying to work to start to spread Christianity. And so they tried to make a lot of parallels so that they could ease their traditions in with the traditions of the people that were in the community. So that's how we got the name Ostara. And the way they set the date for Easter is actually quite interesting as well. So they look at the spring equinox, and this was determined in 325 CE. The Nicaea Council decided that they were going to base it off of the spring equinox. And so once you reach that equinox and you look at the first full moon after the equinox, which is coming up on the 31st this year.
24.
Okay.
The 21st is the equinox. Yeah,
right. The equinox is the 21st.
21st. Oh,
the
sorry.
full moon is the end of the month.
Right.
And so you see the equinox, you find the next full moon right after, which this year is actually a blue moon, which is kind of exciting too. And then it's the first Sunday after that is Easter. So since Sunday falls on April 1st, it happens to be April Fool's Day as well. So we have our blue moon, April Fool's Day, and Easter all in one, basically. And so wherever that full moon lies, that's why sometimes it'll seem like it's quite a bit into April, and sometimes it happens right after the spring equinox. If the full moon happens to be on the day of the spring equinox, then that next Sunday is when Easter will be. So it can have quite a range in there. Easter has not happened on April Fool's Day since 1956, so it does not happen very frequently, but it will be interesting. It'll be a fun way to celebrate it this year. And so that's how you get the date of Easter. It really keeps that those roots kind of embedded in it. Ostara was a Teutonic goddess that was the goddess of spring and dawn. And so it's really, even if you don't want to get into feeling like you're working with the goddess, you can still work with just celebrating spring and dawn. It's a way to bring that spring into our lives, to bring that essence of the fertility, the full hope of new ideas, the full hope of knowing whatever you want to create is at your fingertips, and it's right under the earth. It's just about to spring forward. It's that where you feel it, that same sensation as if you are pregnant and you know that the arrival is going to be soon, and you're filled with that surge of hormones and you feel that surge of love and you're full of all of that life. That same essence, that's what all of us can tap into this time of year, because we're all full of that abundance of spring. It's ready to burst out of us. It shows where we've been kind of kept up in the winter, and we're ready to like zoom outside and be out there. We're just waiting for that sun, that day to be just warm enough, and we want to spring out into all of that possibility. It's like almost encoded in our DNA, where we just have that desire. We have that essence. So harness that power. Harness that feeling and that sensation within yourself so that you utilize that instead of just flowing with it and allowing that energy to dissipate as you start to go into spring and you find the muddy season. Instead of that, really harness it. So you've been planning this winter what you want for this year. You've been thinking of what your goals are for this year. Well, now's the time to really realize them. So get those thoughts right in your head. See it. See what you want. Know what you're manifesting. Feel it all the way in through your bones. Feel like you are pregnant with the possibilities of what you want in your life, and feel that joy, that love, that hope, and then go out there and claim it. Start planting those seeds. This is the time of year where you're starting to really plant those seeds, taking action. So you've done all the thinking. We've been cooped up while we've been doing all of the thinking if you're in cold country, and now you can leap forward, plant those seeds, take the action, make a list of what you need to do to make your dreams come to life, and put it out there to the universe, but also make a list of how you're going to take that action. And Ostara, the symbols that she used a lot were the eggs, because she was all about fertility, and then the rabbit as well was another one of her symbols that was represented by her a lot. And so rabbits I'm sure all of you have heard the term multiplying like rabbits. We know the way they just like multiply. And so use that energy to make your ideas multiply, to make your energy and your efforts multiply. So while you are doing all of the manifesting work, thinking within yourself, but you're also taking the action, and you can use this time of year to really multiply it so that those efforts that you're taking are really expanded on, and the universe will, help guide them and make it so that the effort that you take gets multiplied tenfold. So just harnessing that power, putting all of your thought into it, taking that action, and claiming whatever you want, because you're planting a whole bunch of seeds out there. So just planting them out there, knowing that that's going to come back. Really harness that desire and that fertility within yourself as you do this. Easter is all about renewal and rebirth. So with renewal and rebirth, this is a time to figure out, what things are you ready to let go by the wayside? What parts of you do you want to surrender and release so that you can be renewed? This is a good time to figure out if there are certain parts of you that you're ready to let die, old habits that you don't want to continue carrying on into the future. Old thought patterns. Maybe there's certain relationships in your life that you're ready to release and let go of. And this is that time to do that, because you're ready to have that renewal and rebirth. So it's time to shed that old skin, shed those winter jackets, shed whatever it is you want to release in your life. Let it go so that you can rebirth yourself with all of that wonder, all of that joy, all of that possibility. Knowing what your plan is was the first key, which we did in that whole first part of the wheel of the year here. Now it's time to spring forward. So shed whatever is holding you back. And don't be afraid. Just release it. Let it go. Know that whatever it is you're letting go of has served a lesson. It's served its time. It's helped you for whatever it was there to help you with. And now it's time to spring forward, feeling lighter, feeling more free. So there have been several other examples of the renewal and rebirth too. Ostara is all about renewal and rebirth, just like we have the plants that have gone underground and now they're coming back, or certain plants only come up once a year. So you plant them, you enjoy them, they die, and then you plant new ones. So both of those different cycles are good cycles for renewal and rebirth. Hathor was the Egyptian god that symbolized rebirth, and then later the Christians chose this time of year to symbolize the resurrection of Jesus. So it all flows in with the season of the year. Whatever symbols you want to use, whatever you resonate with, all of those flow in. It's all the same thing with this time of year. So pagan children used to give eggs as an offering to the goddess Ostara in hope and gratitude for spring to come. And so this was just kind of a really sweet story where they said that the children would go out and they would either give offerings, or later on, as history started to change, they would the priests would actually bury the eggs in the ground, and then the children would have to go out and find them. And when they would bring them into the church, then the priests would give them small coins and different things as thanks for going out and finding the eggs and bringing them back. But the original story is that Ostara was so touched that all of these children were bringing her these eggs as offerings that she sent her minions, which were rabbits, out to return the eggs to the children in baskets. And so it was, she was so touched by all of these children showing their devotion, showing her their love for spring, and then she thought she didn't want to keep all of the eggs. She wanted to give them back. And so Easter baskets with bunnies would start to show up for the children. And so what a beautiful way to think of her and in that essence, that spirit of it, in a nice way that we can still honor that now. And who doesn't have fun finding Easter baskets in the morning? And so it's a nice way to see how the stories originated, even though they've changed a lot over time too. It's the same principles, no matter which words you put with it. It's the same principles behind the story that really hold the value. And that's where you're looking at that renewal and that rebirth and feeling the joy of spring, knowing that you're ready to leap forward into the future, knowing that you're ready to plant those seeds, knowing that you can take control of harnessing your power in this life. You can choose to manifest what you want. You can plant the seeds for what you want, and you can decide what it is you want to let go of. You can decide what you're ready to let fall away so that you can bring in more joy, bring in more hope, bring in more of whatever it is you're looking for. It's always balance of releasing and drawing in. Whether it's eggs, bunnies, candy, Easter baskets, new clothes, all of these different symbols have a lot of roots in pagan history that's gone back hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. There are so many similarities between several different religions. It's not even just the pagans and the Christians. There are many different religions that use all of these symbols. So the biggest thing is whether you're celebrating the goddess awakening or the earth awakening or Jesus, just think about what it is that is awakening within your life. Because the biggest thing is your intent. The biggest thing is what you want to bring into your life. So whatever symbols, whatever words you want to put behind it, it's the intent that really matters. So know that this is the time for you to plan, think, know, and now you're planting those seeds. So you've gone through, you're already, getting close to being a quarter of the way into the year. It goes so fast. But when you follow the wheel of the year, it's the same as following the moon phases. So you've been planning, now you're planting, and as you plant now, as you take the action now, as you know what your intent is, so many people don't know what it is that they want. Just knowing it and claiming it is that big first step, and then taking those small steps of action. This is where you're doing those baby steps, planting those original seeds so that you can have a wonderful harvest as we come in and end up getting closer into that midsummer time, so where everybody can be out and about in the spring, enjoying the flowers, enjoying the forest. Even though it's chilly out, this is a good time of year to get out and get into nature. Go out, visit the forest, go walk around, start to move around in your garden, get those early rays of sun, bundle up if it's cold, but get out there and start getting that sunlight basking into your life. Think about what you need to do. What do you need to do to multiply the blessings that are in your life this year? What do you want to multiply like rabbits in your life this year? Part of manifesting is really planting those seeds and doing that work so that you can grow and harvest exactly what your heart desires. So it's all up to you. Your life really is in your control. You really can choose what you want. You can manifest your destiny. You can create your fate. It's all about taking that action, putting that in right now. And I really appreciate all of you for joining us this Sunday with this Life Talk. We love and appreciate each and every one of you. We like it when you like our videos or hit that love button. That means a lot to us too. It lets us know what type of content we should continue doing. And if you can remember, please, to hit the like button on our Facebook page if you would like to continue seeing the content as we put it out. If you hit the subscribe button on YouTube and that bell notification, you can actually be notified of the videos before we go public to everybody else. So I hope you enjoy that content. Please give us any feedback you'd like. If you have certain topics you want us to discuss, feel free to let us know that as well. And I hope you will join us next week when you have Deanna Zayats talking about why you don't need to fear Mercury in retrograde, but you should get prepared for it and what you can do to harness that power instead of being kind of cast into it. You can harness that power and make it work for you. So we will look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, everybody.